Hello everyone, Reginald Scott here. Welcome to the video. I really do hope you're all doing well and in good health. Thank you so much for clicking on this video today. I really do appreciate it. Now, today's video is going to be all about bike lights, what bike lights to buy, what to look for, tips and tricks, how to set them up, literally everything that you need to know. So you did well to click on this video if that's the kind of information you want. I am often complimented and criticized for having very in-depth videos. So if you do appreciate those finer details, this is definitely the video for you. Now, today what I have in front of me is a selection of BBB bike lights. I just need to let you know that this is not a sponsored video. These are just the bike lights I happen to sell in my shop. I guess you could say the video is sponsored by me because I had to buy all of these. I am not suggesting for a moment that you should only buy BBB bike lights, and I'm not suggesting that BBB bike lights are the best bike light for you in particular. The reason why I sell these is prior to me owning a bike shop, I always used BBB products. So that is why when I started a bike shop, I went, you know what, I'm going to stock BBB products because I just happen to like them. So you can take some of the information here today and go out and get the brand of light that maybe works best for you. Okay. Before we proceed any further, if you could do me a massive favor and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with a friend, and of course, comment below. Okay then, let's get into it. So first things first, how many bike lights do you actually need for your bike? Now, it really depends on the situation. I'm going to discuss that more later on and give you like a real breakdown of what kind of lights you need in whatever situation. But I would say minimum is 2. Okay, that's absolute minimum is 2, and maximum is pretty much anything you want. But for me, the most I have on my bike is 5. Okay, so I would always ride with 2, but some situations I would have up to 5 bike lights on my bike at any one time. Next thing is budget. Now you can spend a huge range of money on bike lights, anything from a couple of dollars all the way up to hundreds of dollars, okay, for a bike light. There's probably bike lights out there that are even thousands of dollars. Now, for road riding, I think 100, 150 is probably about the maximum you would ever need to spend. The minimum, although you can pick up bike lights like for $5, and you know, a $5 bike light is better than no bike light at all, of course. And so if you are on a really tight budget, that's absolutely fine. But what I tend to find with the unbranded, you know, Chinese $5 bike lights is that they have a few negatives about them. Generally, they tend to be a bit less reliable. And also with the cheap ones, they sometimes aren't sealed very well. So if it rains, water gets in them because the company that made them really wasn't that interested in making a decent seal on the charging port, for example. And if you buy really, really cheap bike lights, like less than $5, often they come without batteries. So they are ones where you have to put in AA batteries or AAA batteries into the light. If you then use non-rechargeable batteries, you've got to keep buying more batteries over and over again to fuel your light. And if you buy rechargeable batteries, which are quite expensive, you're adding to the cost of the light. You might as well just buy a rechargeable light. And you're having to remember to remove the batteries, put them on charge. You've got to buy a charger. That's another expense. And then remember to put them back every time you need to use them. Also, those kind of batteries, when you hit a bump in the road, they can become dislodged. And so your lights can actually turn off while you're riding. Get ones that are USB rechargeable. This one here clearly states that it's a USB light. All these lights you see here today are USB rechargeable. They come with cables with the lights, and that's what you want to aim for. Now, the cheapest light here that we have is actually this one, which is the Spark 2.0. And this is 39 Brunei dollars. I'll stick the US dollar equivalent down so that you can see the price difference and understand what kind of budget we're talking about here. But like, I think we're talking around $20 to $30 in US currency for these kind of lights. So both these two here, the Spy light and the Spark series, around that $20 to $30. If you move up to the Signal series, a little bit more expensive, $20 increase. And then from this point up, it gets quite a lot more expensive. We go to $88 for this one, which is the Nano Strike 400. And then for the 500 Strike and the 1000 Strike, which I don't have here today, is you know, like hundreds of dollars. It's like $130, $140. So it's a lot more expensive. So after budget and number of lights, we need to look at lighting color. As I mentioned before, some cheaper lights will have some strange colors. I've seen green and purple and blue on, you know, cheap Chinese bike lights. So I would avoid those because those are not legal. In whatever country you reside in, often emergency vehicles have got green, blue, or white light on the top of them as they flash. So you don't want to be mimicking emergency vehicles because you could fall foul of a police officer stopping you and charging you a fine for that. And then also it's confusing to other road users as well. In most countries, I think the rule is white on the front and red on the rear. And that's what you really want to stick to. Now, in some countries, it's actually illegal to even have a flashing light. But generally speaking, flashing is better. So if I've got a white light on the front and a red light on the rear, and they're flashing, even if the rule in the country is that they shouldn't be flashing, I think you can argue that one. I think if the cop pulls you over or the police officer pulls you over, I think you can just, you know, play the old, oh, I didn't know, officer, I apologize kind of thing. And you should probably get away with it. If you, like I say, you've got a blue flashing light on your bike, it's pretty obvious that you're trying to impersonate an emergency vehicle, and that might be a problem. Next one is weight. Now, this seems like a petty thing to talk about, weight, when it comes to safety. It shouldn't really seem all that important, but actually it is. The reason I'm talking about weight is where you mount the light. So, for example, little lights like these Spy USB lights are so small that they can be mounted pretty much anywhere. So you can mount this, because it comes with a silicone strap, you can mount this thing to a seat post or a handlebar, or a wheel hub or a seat stay. Pretty much anywhere on the bike you can mount one of these things, because all it does is have an elastic band that stretches around stuff. This is actually a silicone band, I think. And because of the design of the back of the light, it'll also fit to an aero seat post or a round seat post, yeah? But this one can also be worn on your head, on your helmet, because you just pass the strap through the vents. So you want to consider that when you're buying lights. Where are you going to mount it on the bike? If it's a nice, small, lightweight light like this one, you can pretty much mount it anywhere you want. You can mount it on your head. If you have a big, heavy light like this one, I mean, this one's not particularly big or heavy, but it's certainly a lot heavier than this one. You're probably not going to be able to mount it to your helmet. And it also wouldn't be wise, I think, to mount something like this to your helmet, because it's intensely bright. And if you end up looking at a driver or looking at somebody coming the other way, a fellow cyclist, for example, you run the possibility of blinding them. So a little simple signal light like this is absolutely fine for that kind of function. That brings me on to the fact that there are actually two different categories of lights. I'm not going to talk about radar lights today because they kind of have a very different function, and I'm actually not a fan of those sort of radar lights. I'll explain why. I might as well while I'm here. If I'm sitting behind a rider who has one of those radar lights, I'm concerned about the radiation I'm soaking up. And usually those things are mounted on the seat post around about genital height. And I'm seriously concerned that, like, while I'm behind that rider in a group, I'm just being hit with, you know, radiation that potentially could affect my health in the future. I don't know, maybe I'm worrying over nothing, but I just think it's unnecessary. And I also feel like they're a bit pointless, because if you've got a radar light on the back, are you supposed to be looking at your computer all the time to monitor how close vehicles are? And then at what point, when a vehicle starts getting close, do you intentionally ride your bike onto the grass or ride your bike into a bollard in order to avoid being hit? You know, when does that point come? Use your ears, for example, to hear how close cars are coming. That would be fine for me. Use shoulder checks, or even a little mirror on your handlebar, I think is a much better use than a radar light. So I just have an issue with radar lights. I think they're a little bit pointless. I think they're a bit of a gimmick. So I'm not going to talk about those today or recommend those today. If you want to get one, that's absolutely fine. But for me, I think they're a bit of a pointless waste of time. But like I say, we have signal lights and we have lights to see. All right, so lights to be seen and lights to see. Those are the two categories that we have. Small little lights like these that, you know, flash but don't produce much light, like 15 lumens for this rear one and 40 lumens for this front one. These are definitely just signaling lights. These are lights designed to show the driver that you're there, to make people aware of your presence. They're not there to light the road, okay? Although this seems very bright, if you turn it on to its maximum 40 lumens, it's really not going to give you much light to light the road. What's good about this kind of light though is it's very simple to use, very easy to use, and actually I like the Spy USB because if you disconnect it from its mounting, that's how you charge it, and you can actually leave this thing strapped to your helmet or strapped to your handlebar, and you don't have to worry about fiddling around with the mount again later on. You can just simply slot this back in, give it a half turn, and it's in. It's actually even a quarter turn, I think. Yeah, it's just a quarter turn and it locks in. So that's very easy and convenient. I would recommend, if you're going for the smaller lights or very simple day-to-day lights, to go with stuff with the rubber bands like these. Either silicone rings or rubber bands are the best way to attach the lights. Try to avoid any complex mountings because it will take time to mount those lights. Again, cheaper lights tend to come with mountings that cannot be removed, that have to be attached with a screw or screwdriver. It's way better to have these kind of lights that you can just simply fit and remove from your bike, either for charging or to stop them from getting stolen when you arrive at your destination. For nighttime riding, you actually need lights that are less bright. That might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually the case. So when you're riding around at night, these kind of lights are absolutely fine. This is 40 lumens, this is 15 lumens. This is more than bright enough to see for a driver at night, to give a good indication of where you are on the road, okay? Especially if you're in a built-up area with plenty of street lighting. What you don't want is super, super bright lights at night on your rear, flashing directly into the eyes of a driver. For example, this one here that I have, the Signal, which is a bit more expensive, a bit more powerful at 50 lumens rather than 15 lumens. This has a daytime flash mode, just like this Spark here. It clearly states daytime flash. And the reason for that is, let's see now the different modes. The daytime flash mode is full power, whereas the nighttime flash mode here is way, way less. You can see this is only 3 lumens for the nighttime flash mode. So the nighttime flash mode, let's just turn this on. This one will actually blind you if you look directly at it with 50 lumens. There we go. So that's the first setting. That's the second setting. And that's the third setting, brightness. Next one, that is the nighttime flash mode. That is the, what is it, like 3 lumens? Yeah, 3 lumens. That is more than enough to see at night. That's more than enough to signal to a driver your presence. The daytime flash mode, the full 50 lumens, is so intense that if I were to look at this right now, I would have an image of this burned onto my retina for several seconds. This is something you do not want to use at night. And the reason for that is it can actually blind vehicles behind you, whether they be fellow cyclists or drivers. And it will actually annoy people. I've been sitting in my car in traffic and I've been behind another vehicle, whether it be a car or a cyclist, that have rear lights that are extremely bright. And even if you try and look away, because it's just flooding the cabin of the vehicle that you're in, it really hurts your eyes. And it makes it difficult to look at the vehicle and be safe to pass the vehicle. So you're actually doing yourself a discourtesy by using such a bright flash. Same again if you're in a group of riders. It's very discourteous to other riders to have such a bright light when they have to be behind you. Sometimes if you're in a fast group ride, you're only like a quarter of a meter or something, or a couple of feet away from the guy in front of you. And this, could potentially be on their seat post, angled right into your face. And you've got to stare at that for several hours. That's going to do you a lot of damage. So again, if you do have super bright lights, try and be courteous and use either the nighttime flash or a lower brightness mode, okay, when you're in a group. Yeah, if it's heavy rain at night, then possibly the daytime flash mode would be warranted again. But like I say, generally speaking, try to avoid it. If you go above kind of the Strike 400, you start to get into a light that's so heavy and big that it really requires a more solid mounting system. So this one actually has got a full plastic mount with a screw that screws onto your handlebar. This also comes with an adapter to mount to your cycling computer as well. because a light like this is just too bulky and heavy to actually fit with a rubber mounting strap. It would just bounce around too much. So you'll be flagging everybody and everything with the light. It will be really hard to focus the light where you want it. That's a big difference as well between signaling lights and lights designed to light the road in front of you. Those would need to be focused on a particular patch of the road, whereas the signal ones, if the light spreads around all over the place, it's not really a problem because they're just designed to catch the eye, whereas these powerful direct beam lights are designed to light the road in front of you, so you can avoid potholes and glass and all sorts of stuff that might be in the road. Let me just show you the mounting points for this. So obviously all these lights come with the USB cable, and then here you have your adapters for your computer mount, for example, or some fancy handlebars that come with these kind of mounts. And then here's your standard handlebar mount. They often come with reducers or rubber bits here, so you can clamp it on a variety of sizes, the older fashioned bars or the new 30+ mm wide bars. Another thing I would say about these, this one actually has a little disconnect button here, or a quick mounting clip, so you don't have to keep removing the main mount every time you need to charge the light. And these lights also can be detached here, and you can actually replace these batteries, which is fantastic. It's a nice feature of these more expensive lights. So the numbers here with regards to the Strike series refers to the amount of lumens. This is a 500 lumen light, and this is a 400 lumen light. I would say for a road cyclist, 500 is about all you need, or the maximum that you need. I know they do 1,000, and some companies do several thousand lumens for their bike lights. I would say for a road cyclist, it's just not necessary. Even on a really dark country lane, 500 or 400 lumens is more than enough to light the road ahead of you. If you're needing more than that, you're probably doing something like mountain biking or gravel biking. So obviously the more light that your light produces, the further out you can project your beam. And so the more prior warning you have if something's coming up. If you go for just a signal style light and you budget for that, you're limited to the ability to just signal people, just get people's attention. If you budget for something much bigger like this, then you could use this just as a signal light, or you can use it to light the way ahead of you. So it gives you more flexibility. So if you can afford more powerful lights, it's probably best to go for more powerful lights. One piece of advice I would give, or one tip I would give for these things, is any light that mounts to a clip like this, what I like to do is get a little piece of electrical tape and just stuff it in that gap there. I'll actually show you my personal bike light now. Here we go. This is actually my Strike 500. Exactly the same light, but this one's been used a few times. And if I disconnect it here, you'll see that there's a little piece of electrical tape just stuffed in that gap. And then as I drive forward the clip, it just wedges it in that gap. And this is to stop the light from rattling. There's a little bit of play in them. So if you stick a little bit of electrical tape in there, it just completely nullifies any shaking or rattling from the light. Also, if you're mounting and unmounting these things to your bike during the winter, I would suggest you wrap your handlebar in a little bit of electrical tape as well before you mount your clamp. It just prevents any grit or sand or dirt that might be on your clamp from scratching your handlebar. So it also helps with gripping the mounting point as well, stop your light from slowly like tipping down. Some of these clamps are really smooth, and even when you tighten up the screw, they still don't hold very well. Also, if you do use some electrical tape, it means that you don't have to over tighten the mount. Sometimes if you over tighten these mounts, you end up splitting the plastic, and so you ruin the mount. If you use a little bit of electrical tape first before sticking it on, you'll find that the thing will hold easily without need for excessive torque on the screw. So there you go. That is my Strike 500. That is one of the biggest bike lights that I have. I also have this one, which is an unbranded Chinese light that I was just telling you about. This one is really heavy duty. This actually has two 500 beams on it. It was a gift from somebody, and it's actually been a really great bike light. And if you notice, same thing again with this clamp. I stuck a piece of electrical tape in there. You can see the gluey residue from the tape. And again, I just snap that in there like that, and it stops it from making noise when I'm going down a bumpy road. The next thing you need to look for is the sealing of the USB port. That is really important. There are a lot of bike lights, even branded bike lights out there, that have poor sealing for the port. In this particular case, the port is actually hidden behind a very thick plug, as you can see, deep inside the back of the light there. So there's very little chance of water getting in there, because when this is mounted on your handlebar, it's pushing the port closed, and any rain that falls down on top of the light is just going to run down the side. It's not going to go up and in to there. The only way you would really get water in this is if you fully submerge the bike underwater. And even then, it has a good chance of being okay, because that rubber port there is plug is so thick. So that's the first thing to check out with your bike lights when you're buying them. Does it have an easy attachment strap, and does it have a really well sealed port? If we look at the Signal series of lights, the Signal series is a really nice light. What I like about it is actually the button to turn it on is at the back. So when you put it against your seat post or your handlebar, you just press against the front of the light to get it start flashing. This one again has a port that's sealed at the back here, nice big thick plug, and this is what's going to be pressed against your seat post. Very essential that you have something that's well sealed. No point in spending $60 on an expensive fancy bike light and getting something that's going to leak or have water ingress and ruin your light. Okay, finally let's check out this NanoStrike 400. So this is the kind of the last one in the range of rubber strap lights. So this one has the plug underneath again. This one actually doesn't have as thicker plug than the other lights. It's actually quite a small plug. It just pops in, nicely seals underneath. This one, I would probably, if it was me, I'd probably put some tape or something over that just to stop that from shaking loose while I ride. It doesn't appear to shake loose. It does actually take some effort to get it to come out, but still, I'd be a little bit paranoid about that one. Also, because it's not covered by the strap, like it doesn't fit under here, which to me would be the best place to put it. So you look, that actually comes out of there. Decent clamp on this one, like I say, and it is designed to fit to both aero and your round shaped bars, and at 400 lumens it's pretty bright. So it starts off, I think, on low, there we go, and gets brighter. So 400 lumens is very bright, definitely bright enough for inner city riding, and even a little bit of suburban riding as well. Absolutely blinding light there. And then a double click should produce the flash mode. There we are. So that is going to definitely alert any drivers in a very large vicinity. Let's see what the flash mode is. There we go. That's the other flash mode. Bump, bump. So that is actually a 400 lumen daytime flash mode. That's intensely bright. And that is the normal nighttime flash mode at 100 lumens. Again, very bright, and 42 hours of flashing.
42?
So you charge this up and it's probably good for the whole month, to be honest with you. If you're just commuting to work a couple of hours or an hour every day, that is absolutely fantastic for the amount of battery life you get there. Press and hold to turn it off. Now, a lot of these lights come with a safety feature.
How does it work? I know not, my liege.
Usually the light comes on low power mode, and then you have to cycle through it to get to the high power mode so you don't blind yourself. And this one's the same. If you turn it on, it comes on relatively slowly. And then if I want it to be the full power mode, yeah, there we go. So that's the full power mode, 500 lumens. Very bright indeed. What's the lowest setting on this? Lowest setting on this one is 15. 15 lumens gets you 60 hours of light. And the flash mode on this one is 150 lumens. That is very, very bright. To activate the flash mode on this one, you press both the buttons at the same time. And that gets you your 150 lumens flash. Yeah, extremely bright. Charging port on this one is under here. Again, not a huge seal on this one. I've never had any problems with mine. but and it really snaps into place there. But again, I think I'd be tempted to cover that with a bit of tape if it's rainy weather. I haven't done it on mine, and as like I say, it's been absolutely fine. But I think if I was living in the UK or somewhere where there's a lot of rain all the time, I would be considering putting something around there. What you could do, actually, what would be the best option, would be cutting a piece of bicycle inner tube and stretching that over the light, so as to where it would retain the plug in place, and it would also act as a rain shield as well. And because it's a piece of rubber, it wouldn't stop you from pressing the lights here on top.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
Now let's go look at my bike and I will show you what lights I use in what situation. Okay folks, so here's the rear of my bike, and this is a dead simple setup. I always have two lights, irrelevant of the situation. The reason why I always carry two lights on the rear is for redundancy reasons. One of these lights might have low battery and I don't know about it. It's not a smart light. Some smart lights, I believe, will indicate to you when they're low by sending you a message to your phone. These ones do have an indicator light on. For example, this little blue light here is showing me that my power is low on this one. But that little blue indicator light might come on halfway through your ride to warn that you've only got 20% battery left, you see. This one here, which is a cheaper light, this one doesn't have any indicator, so I have no idea what the charge is on this. That is why I always have two lights. And there have been times in the past where I used to ride with just one light, and I would get home after a 2-hour night ride, and it would be off, and I would have no idea whether it stopped flashing 1 minute into the ride, or like 59 or 60 minutes into the ride. I have absolutely no idea. So always have two lights on the rear. Try and mount your lights as high as you can. I actually have this one on a Physique mount. This mount was for a Physique light, but the Physique light broke, so I screwed another light to it and screwed and glued so that I would have another bike light that actually works for my saddle. Nice and high is good because obviously a lot of drivers are in higher vehicles like 4x4s or vans, and so having a high light means that you're more at the eye level of oncoming drivers. So here is the front of the bike, and I would say you should always have one light on the front, irrelevant of what you're doing. I would say one light is a minimum for daytime riding. Now my head unit or my computer here actually has an inbuilt light that comes on automatically when it gets a bit overcast or dark, or I can turn that light on manually using the buttons. So that's a great feature, but if you don't have a head unit with an inbuilt light, always have at least one bright light, small signal light, I should say, on the front of the bike. And this is mine attached to the bar. I really like these BBB lights with the buttons in the rear. They make for very easy on and off. Like if I have my hand here, I can just do that, just hit it with my finger and change the modes. So if I'm riding in the day, it will be on daytime flash mode like this. And it's a great indication to traffic at junctions that you're coming, and it really prevents cars from pulling out on you unnecessarily. Obviously people still can, but at least you've given them some kind of warning. If it's nighttime and I'm in a city environment, then I would switch this to nighttime flash mode and I would add an additional light. Okay, so actually on my setup I would have three lights because this one would be on as well, flashing away. So I would have three lights on the front, but for you guys, if you're riding in a city, I would say two lights on nighttime flash mode. And the reason for that again is obviously more visibility, and the second reason is redundancy. If one again fails, you've still got a backup. And also if for whatever reason you accidentally cross into an area where there's not much street lighting, or you go somewhere new and there is no street lights, one of these lights can be switched to full beam and directed more at the ground, and it at least gives you a fighting chance of seeing where you're going. In fact, both lights could be switched to full beam and directed at the ground. And then even though these are not really designed to light the way, they are throwing some light to the ground. If I just turn the lights off in the room, there you go. You can see that these two lights, even though it's completely pitch black in here, well, it's not completely pitch black, but it's a pretty dark room. You can see these are throwing a nice amount of light on the ground. So it gives me a fighting chance to see where I'm going. But I wouldn't recommend that if you know you're going to go into a dark area, that you just use these basic signal lights. I would say you need something a bit more heavy duty. So if you are going into like a suburban area where the street lights are maybe spaced further apart, or an area that has more spotty lighting, then this needs to be upgraded, and I'll show you that upgrade now. Okay, so this is the upgrade for if I'm riding in an area where I know there's less street lighting and I know it's going to be a bit darker. Maybe I'm going to have to go down some canal paths or some side roads that perhaps don't have very good lighting. I'll add my 500 lumen BBB light on here, my Strike 500. The reason I add it onto the right-hand side of my bike instead of the left is for two reasons. Number one, this light here is brighter than this one, so I'm mounting two brighter lights rather than substituting this one, okay? That means I don't have to move this light, I can just attach this one straight away. And secondly, the mount on this side has got a right justified mount to it, so the idea is you put it on the left and it sits in the middle of your stem. The problem I found with that is, for some reason, when this light is on flash mode, like that, the electrical signal of this light, if it's in line with the computer, actually affects the computer and cuts off my GPS location for my computer. So I found that if I mount it to the side, slightly further away, like this, the signals that are released by this light when it's flashing don't interfere with my computer. So that's the main reason that I've got it on that side. But you can mount them any way you want, really. This gives me a nice spread on the ground. That's the 400 lumen setting, and then I've got the 500 lumen setting. It's kind of like a spotlight, but it does throw a lot of light around the wall. Let me just turn the lights out for a second. Now what you want to do is set the bike down on the ground. Right now I'm in a bike stand. You want to set the bike down on the ground, either on your driveway or in a big room in the house, and you want to angle the lights down to the ground so you've got a nice big sort of teardrop shaped spread on the ground, way in front of your bike, so you can really see any potholes or road debris coming up on you. Obviously the brighter your light is, the more likely you are to see stuff coming up. And then, as I say, I would have this one turned on to nighttime flash mode. So I've got a warning light for drivers pulling out on me or coming up towards me, and I've also got a bright light to light my way. And this one can also be switched to flash mode as well if I need to. So there you go. And again, it's two lights because that gives me some redundancy. So if anything happens to my main light, I've got a backup. Now, if I'm going to an area that has really poor street lighting or no street lighting at all, and maybe it's a moonless night because the sky is cloudy and literally there's no ambient light around me whatsoever, I have one more upgrade that I do to this system or the front of the bike. Let me show you that now. Here we go. So this is the final setup, and this is good for your, English country lanes or your Bruneian rainforest roads, jungle roads. This is like my setup for those kind of roads. I've got a twin 500 lumen here and another 500 lumen here, and this throws more than enough light down for me to see where I'm going on the very darkest roads to avoid the wild boars and giant snakes that might come out from the jungle. And this, I think, is like say, more than enough. These are two quite different lights with the way they throw the light. So the floodlight, excuse my 2-year-old daughter who's hitting my bike with a toy bear. The floodlight is going to go directly in front of the bike here, angled down, so it really throws a lot of light around the bike so you can see all the things in the road directly in front of you. And then when you activate your more focused spotlight, that one's going to go out in front over there, as you can see. Look, if I turn this off and then turn this on, so like I say, the spotlight goes way out in front, and that picks out objects and things way down the road. So floodlight stays in front of the bike, and the spotlight goes way out in front of the bike, picking out any objects that are coming up. And I'll just show you by turning the floodlight out. There you go. So the spotlight way out in front, picking up objects and distance, and then the floodlight in front of you, lighting up all the area there. So that's how you do them. Angle them at two different angles, basically. And again, because it's twin lights, plenty of redundancy. These ones have nice indicators on them as well that tell me exactly how much power I've got left. So this is saying full, and this one is also saying that it's got plenty of light. So there you go. This one is amazing, actually, for the amount of hours that you get from light from this. I charge it, when I'm doing a month of night rides during fasting month, I charge this once, and it lasts me a whole month of night rides, so it's absolutely fantastic. So there you go. That is my lighting setup on the front of my bike for the very darkest roads. And that's it. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, please do leave them below. I'm more than happy to answer them and fill in extra information that I may have missed. As always, folks, when you're out riding, do try and stay safe, and remember to use plenty of bike lights to keep yourself visible. I shall see you all hopefully in the next video. Bye bye.